What's up, everybody? I thought I'd revisit some of the foundational topics that I built this channel around, which is door knocking, cold calling, prospecting, and most importantly, which I think everybody fears at some point, is the fear of rejection. I made a video a long time ago, probably one of the first videos that I made on this channel, talking about door knocking and the fear of rejection. So if you want to revisit that video from around 3 years ago, you can go check it out somewhere in the cards. I'll put it above. But basically, when I stepped into the role of becoming a real estate agent, I knew already from the videos that I watched from Bryan, Casella, whose channel I'll link in the description below, anybody that had some presence in the YouTube community, that door knocking and cold calling was the way to build your sales skills if you didn't have any sales skills in the past. And for me, coming in from high school as someone who didn't have any working experience, that was the first thing that I needed, was skills, confidence, and the ability to sell to people. So first day of door knocking, literally the first day of working in real estate, I spent 4 hours door knocking. And I would say that when you have a higher purpose or you have a goal that extends beyond your fears, that fear gets dissipated pretty quickly. If your goal is to close, a certain amount of transactions a year, and you're so busy focusing on that number, the fear of rejection doesn't actually register as heavily as it does if your goal is to just learn sales. Right? It's because anytime that we try to focus on something very small, where our problems tend to focus on that small aspect. Whereas if we focus on even bigger goals, bigger aspirations, the little problems that happen to be in the beginning tend to dissipate, or they're not as big in comparison to the bigger goal that you have in mind. I hope you get what I'm trying to say here, is that you should be focusing on a very big aspect or a big goal of yours, which dwarfs the fear of rejection. But let's say that you still have the fear of rejection, which I certainly did, and I don't think anybody will not have, most people, the fear of rejection when you're door knocking or cold calling. Let's address the door knocking aspect first, because I think that's a bit more intimidating for most people. Understand that people aren't going to be very rude to you in person, and that's just the way it is. If you analyze any internet interaction, on social media, people tend to be a lot more aggressive and hostile. But if you put two of the same people together in a room and you have them face each other, look each other straight in the eyes, most likely these people won't be so aggressive and hostile. So you're going to be already off to a good start when it comes to a rejection standpoint. Most people aren't going to be rude to you, right? Now let's say that people are rude to you. People shut the door in your face. They don't take you seriously. I don't know what kind of rejection that you're most scared of, but it's not that bad. And I don't know how else to put it, but it's so simple. It's not that bad because these people don't actually care about you, right? These people don't care about what you're doing with your life or what the outcome is. People only genuinely care about themselves. And, have you ever noticed the concerns that people have about themselves? Probably not, because you're so focused about what your problems are that you're not focused on anybody else. So why would anyone focus on your apprehension and your tensions when you're door knocking, when they're focused on what they had to do before you knocked on their door, right? And the thing is, when you have the fear of rejection when you're door knocking, oftentimes that comes from the lack of repetition, the lack of skills, the lack of experience when you're doing something new. Statistically, I would knock on 100 doors every 2 hours, right? That's for a typical 5,000 square foot residential, 5,000 square foot lot residential neighborhood. I would go through 100 doors in 2 hours, probably talk to around 20 people on average. You do that for 2, 3, 4 weeks even, you'll get so used to all the different types of responses that people have, the limited responses people have, that it just becomes so easy to know what people are going to say before they even say it. And when you know what people are going to say, you can anticipate how to respond. But of course, you got to be listening to what they're saying, right? That's a precedent. But the thing is, you can anticipate what people are going to say based off of repeated patterns of doing the same activity. So practice your scripts. I said this before. You got to know what you're going to say to people. The way I approach it is this: try to eliminate as many opportunities as possible for you to fail in any given endeavor. So when you're door knocking and you know that certain rejections happen more than other ones, practice those rejections first. And sometimes they might not even be rejections, they might just be conditions or excuses, as I call them. You know, people might say that, hey, you knock on their door, you do your pitch, they might say, oh, I'm not busy right now. Just say, hey, I won't be here for too long, I'll be out of your hair in just a minute. Just want to ask you a quick question. Usually that gets people to stay at the door for another minute or two. And from there you can keep asking questions, and then you can shift the conversation towards something more interesting. When you shift the conversation to them, people start to talk a little bit more. That's just how it is. Ask them, how long have you lived here? What brought you to this area, etc. When do you plan on moving? Sometimes people just tend to open up. And I oftentimes had more problems trying to make conversations shorter because people just couldn't stop talking about themselves. And I guess that's a better problem than being rejected all the time. But when you know your script and you have good energy and you have a smile on your face, the rest just takes care of itself. And you have no reason to keep fearing rejection when you get more conversations than you do get rejected. But they do happen. And if you do get rejected, it doesn't matter. No one's really going to come after you with a gun or a knife. It's never happened to me. The most that you'll ever have is a dog barking at you. That's it. And it's even easier to handle rejection on the phone because, again, you're not facing anybody in person. I will say, though, that with the phone, people might be a little bit more aggressive and they might cuss you out because they don't have to deal with you in person. But again, anytime someone starts rambling to you on the phone, you have a choice to hang up the phone on them instead of them hanging up the phone on you. That's sometimes what I did. I would get so tired of people just immediately cussing me out if I called them at 7:30 in the morning for expired listings, that if I knew that there was no chance of me making a sale or an appointment, I just hung up on them. And it's funny because sometimes they would call me back. So that's that. Rejection is just a really small part of learning how to sell. And it's a very small problem to deal with when you have bigger things to focus on, like the number of transactions that you want, the results that you want to get out of your business. And ultimately, it's just a part of a process that you have to deal with. Your skin is going to become a lot thicker when you put in the reps. When you're out there door knocking 3-4 hours a week or 3-4 hours a day, 5 times a week, putting in roughly at least 500 doors a week, multiply that times, 50 working weeks in a year, rejection is going to mean nothing to you in like a month or two, right? And the more you do it, the easier it gets. I will say, though, that anytime you take a break on door knocking, let's say for like a 2-week or 3-week period, you might have a little bit of a some time to get used to it again, because it's like a muscle. If you don't use it, if you're not used to it, rejection will start to have a bit of an effect on you. So keep doing it, keep practicing, practice your scripts, and watch yourself get comfortable the more you do it. Hope this video helps.